ed è qualcosa.
It's very good. And I just looked around. I mean, about looking just at the names here, I believe that we will have only the Muslim. We are concerned about a general area. We're looking for the future. We have to look with else.
Yeah, I understand.
And, but that goes for the rest of the regional community.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's difficult to understand this, but
moderating this evening, so I'd like to have a quick word with the speakers.
And
Yeah.
sure.
As managing editor of the Financial Times. So the
Much, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really delighted that the meeting in Davos every time offers the opportunity for a dialogue on current issues. This year is no exception. Energy, international interaction of stability, resources, distribution, and of course, international political relations, how it impacts our cooperation. The topics which are dealing with are essential to find a common understanding, common benefits, and acceptable ground rules for a future cooperation. Rapidly changing international social, economic, political configurations, in some cases restructure of alliances, creates new opportunities and at the same time allow us to re-examine present positions and expectations. Tonight I will be very objective, since in front of me I have to deal with almost unsurmountable task to address and probably answer some of questions. And the question or the topic was given to me, what kind of Russia does the world expect? It would be easy and simple to choose to say that creative, cooperative, sharing, respecting the values and choices of its neighbors, and contributing to building a common future based on common principles. Since you know that I am from Lithuania, and Lithuania is well aware of the importance of a democratic, open, and stable Russia with tolerant society and responsible government. We do not have to search far to understand if Russia is prepared to take a global role. And all of that we have to do is to take a look at its relation and in some cases problems with the neighboring countries. If issues are not resolved at this level, I mean the local neighboring levels, how can we expect sometimes to accept the global level and responsibilities? It is quite obvious that Russia has problems when dealing with almost some of the neighbors, like the Baltic states, Poland, Ukraine, Georgia, and sometimes even with Belarus. Since most of the countries in the world are small, for example, like my country, what kind of conclusions will then make when considering Russia's claim to be a global power? The main task that we should solving today, or we are solving in Brussels, in Vilnius, and no, sometimes it's difficult to get. All, well as in other Western capitals, is how to encourage Russia make a wider step towards democracy without undermining the internal balance in Russia. That's the way we see it. To my mind, our relations with Russia should be based on these basic principles. First, elaborate the dialogue with Russia, how Russia itself understands its role and responsibility in the 21st century. It is necessary to allow Russia to define the level of its global responsibility itself, and accordingly to define our relations with Russia. If Russia is seeking global responsibility and a global role, there are some benchmarks to be overcome. To withdraw the troops from Georgia and Moldova, which is foreseen under the Istanbul Agreement, to ratify the Energy Charter, to follow the promises made when joining the Council of Europe, to follow intergovernmental agreements with other countries, including the Baltic states. In case Russia today is not ready to implement these agreements, we should not, under coercion from Russia, conclude new agreements, especially when those agreements sweep away our previous commitments. There is no necessity to rush with a new European Union-Russia Partnership and Cooperation Agreement, the so-called post-PCA as well. The relationship of the international community with Russia should correspond to the level of Russia's readiness to commit to international community. Secondly, strengthening communication with Russia's neighbors, particularly those that have embarked on the road of democratic values. The more there is democracy and stability at Russian borders, the better it is for all of us and for Russia itself. Therefore, countries that have decided on the path of democracy, like Ukraine, Georgia, Moldavia, and other, and the path, should be given support in every possible way. In this respect, a special role to allocate to the European Union and NATO, two structures that have already proved their ability not only stabilize this situation in Russia's neighborhoods, but also create a real preconditions for long-term prosperity. I am confident that cooperation between EU and NATO with Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, and other countries in the region could be even more dynamic. Total integration of these countries into the Euro-Atlantic space is our long-term strategic objective, and I hope it's also that of Russia. And the third, strengthening international community's common vision on the development of relations with Russia. Also, all of us agree on our strategic goals. We sometimes have different approaches to the way of reaching them. We should not be afraid of diversity of views and opinions, but we should nevertheless decide on how to reach the common solution and design a common policy. This particularly applies to the EU and NATO. Different opinions are publicly voiced, but there is no political format as yet to put them within the framework of a political process. I see a major need to initiate such a discussion and not to restrict it with a strict timetable. If we, the leaders in EU member states, can negotiate an agreement on a reform treaty even until 5 o'clock in the morning, why cannot we spend more time speaking about our relationship with Russia, which is no less important to the future of Europe? If a reform treaty has been drawn up by the European Convent and several groups of what I call wise men, but what is the group of wise men to find a way for getting on with Russia? We have, first of all, to define a clear-cut position within the EU, and only then move on with new propositions towards our partners in Russia. Therefore, it is our duty to remind the international society about unnecessary tensions and to jointly plan how to engage in a constructive dialogue. We, I mean Lithuanians, Russia's neighbors, are the most interested in a new quality of relationship. It is a difficult task, but the one that we must accomplish. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for a very, very thoughtful presentation.
Thank you. Родственников живут в Латвии, половина родственников живут в Сибири.
So half of my relatives live in Latvia. They are